Good morning, afternoon, or good night, depending on when you are watching this. My name is Dion, but you can call me IsBe, and let's talk about last week, where a lot of things happened that I can't go into great detail about due to the legality of my day job. Please make this my day job by subscribing and pressing that bell notification so that I can talk about things in greater detail. Boom, said it in the first 15 seconds. You can't even say you missed it. Anyways, with that being said, we are going to go over to TalkBe, who has updates for us on last week's episode. So TalkBe, to you. Thank you, IsBe. Only 4 updates this week. To start off with some great news, Sir Ian McKellen is expected to make a full recovery after his incident in the London theater where he fell down a flight of stairs. He's apparently perfectly fine, which is fantastic. Also, Young Thug's lawyer, Brian Steele, has motioned to remove the judge from his position in the case. We talked about last time how the judge had a secret meeting where he told a witness if he did not testify, the judge would send him into jail indefinitely, which is of course illegal, especially since no one on Young Thug's team knew about this meeting. And when Brian Steele called the judge out on his behavior, the judge, rather than admitting it or saying I'm sorry or anything, he threw the lawyer in jail. Also, Joey Chestnut will be able to compete against soldiers at Fort Bliss, Texas on the 4th of July. This was, of course, after he was banned from the National Eating Contest that is held by Nathan's on Coney Island because Joey started to represent a food brand called Impossible Meat, which is, of course, a vegan food brand, and Joey had responded to the situation saying, and quote, I feel bullied. If I'm ever going to work with them again, they're going to have to apologize, as they should. And finally, Vanna White might leave the Wheel of Fortune. Last week, we talked about how Pat Sajak retired after 42 years of hosting the show. Well, allegedly, they were going to replace him with Ryan Seacrest. Now, this was immediately met with backfire, as many Wheel of Fortune fans did not like Ryan replacing the former host, and reports are now coming out that Vanna White is having problems with Ryan on set, which led to many viewers asking the question, why isn't Vanna hosting anyways? Vanna has been on the show just as long as Pat, and no offense to Pat, Vanna White is a significantly more of a household name than Pat Sajak. Also, there's been debates about Vanna's paycheck, which that had been in the news years ago, and it's coming up again. So there seems to be some big changes coming one way or another. Now, with all of that being said, it's back to you, IsBe. Thank you, TalkBe. Perhaps if we had a hot woman on set, we would get more views. We should probably look into that. But our first story tonight, weed is no longer banned in the NCAA. So players who get drug tested will no longer get in trouble if they have weed in their system, and players who are currently banned will have that ban lifted. Also, Heinz Sauce, the food brand, has released a limited edition sauce that combines all of their sauces. The best way to describe it is from a tweet that I saw that read, this is something they'd have on regular show that would give you incredible cooking powers until the sauce god comes down and smites you for creating an abomination. Speaking of animated television shows on Cartoon Network, Bob's Burger star Jay Johnson has entered a plea deal as he was involved in the January 6th Capitol riot. He voiced Bob's rival Jimmy Pesto and was a pretty well-known actor. No word yet on what will happen to the character, but speaking of celebrities attending events, Kendrick Lamar's Juneteenth pop-out concert was amazing. It was a huge deal. Lots of celebrities there, including LeBron James. RDC was there. He also performed Not Like Us 5 different times. And all I can say is that I wish that when I grow up, I can be as big of a hater as him. In other musical news, Coldplay will release their 10th album on October 4th called Moon Music. And speaking of white people music, Justin Timberlake was arrested after getting charged with a DUI. And a lot of the news articles were being really weird, trying to paint the cop as the bad guy because allegedly he hangs around rich people, celebrity areas, and then fines them for their illegal activities. Pretty sure it's a good thing. We shouldn't be letting rich people do illegal things because they're rich. But what do I know? I live in America. And speaking of living in America, the United States presidential debate hosted by CNN with current President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. The debate occurred and it was a little weird. They had a lot of rules attached to it. They didn't give opening speeches. Their microphones were muted until it was their turn to speak. There was no live audience. They weren't allotted notes. They weren't allowed to consult their team in between breaks. And the biggest takeaway of the night was that golfing is very important to old folk and I guess America. Speaking of the United States, for the first time in history, the United States has left the top 20th happiest state ever. According to the 2024 World Happiness Report, we have fallen into the 23rd position. And I think that's insane because I'm fairly certain most Americans couldn't even name 22 other countries. In more American news, Louisiana has made it a law that requires every single state to have a copy of the Ten Commandments from the Bible in each classroom. Now, obviously, this is legal, this is anti-constitutional, but let me know what you guys think. And speaking of religion, a pastor has been selling plots of land in heaven for $100 per square meter because allegedly God told him to. Moving on from that brain-dead blasphemy, DR.DISRESPECT is a pedophile. And if you remember, just a few weeks ago, The Boys, that's over on Amazon, that's currently has season 4 out, they were getting a lot of flack because it was too political. Well, the same week that all of this conversation of The Boys were happening, The Boys had a whole bit where the character known as Firecracker, who's a conservative Christian, podcast host, she slept with a 15-year-old boy. But she was immediately forgiven by all of her fans, the ones that the show makes fun of, in a very well Simpsons-style prediction, because that happened in real life. Because when it was reported that DR.DISRESPECT, a very popular streamer who was banned on Twitch a few years ago for unknown reasons, he was exposed by a former Twitch employee who said that he was banned because he was using Twitch's message service, Twitch Whispers, to message underage fans. And when this accusation came out, he admitted it. He tweeted out this very long tweet, basically saying that he absolutely, in his own words, there were conversations with a minor and they were inappropriate, but he still has supporters because he said he didn't mean it and it wasn't like that. And like just in every sense, this is literally The Boys season 4, episode 4. Streamer gets exposed on Twitter for underage relations. Streamer admits flat out to millions of people, and millions of them just don't care. I have nothing more to say about that except for all the pedos should burn in hell. And with The Boys in mind, let's go over to NerdBe, who has some nerd news for us. NerdBe, to you. Thank you, IsBe. Today we're going to start our nerd news with an in memoriam segment, as there have been a few individuals who have passed. So this is for them. First of all, Nancy McKenzie, the Latin American voice for Marge Simpson. She passed away at 81. Taki Masudo, the Japanese voice for SpongeBob, he passed away at 56. Bill Cobb's legendary actor passed away at 90. And Donald Sutherland passed away at 88. So let's make sure that we remember these people for who they are, and we thank them for the gifts that they've brought to this world. Now, our nerd news segment should be a little bit faster today, as there have been a lot of announcements, but not a lot of details. So make sure you stick to the end when I go through a series of announcements that we just don't have a lot of information on. But first, A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead, a video game. The trailer had dropped, and it looks amazing. And it'll give people who complain about mascot horror something to jump onto and stop pretending like there's only one version of horror games nowadays. Also, Netflix is starting to sell Netflix-branded popcorn. Now, this could be tied to the fact that Netflix plans to make real Netflix locations, or it could just be a cash grab. Who knows? Netflix, probably. Also, Warner Brothers continues to do bad things as they close down the Cartoon Network website. This upset many people, not just for the nostalgia, but it's sad when you think about the fact that there's so many people who are against children using social media, yet children's corners of the internet are slowly getting taken away and are damn near non-existent. Growing up, I had the Nickelodeon website, used to be awesome. There was Club Penguin, there was Webkins, obviously Cartoon Network, and now it's just Twitter with all of its sex box and bigots, and it's really sad to see the internet slowly being destroyed. But with some happier news, Marvel is to return to Hall H this year at San Diego Comic-Con. Apparently, Hall H will focus on the movies, and they'll save the television stuff for D23, which makes sense because most of the Marvel television shows are on Disney Plus, so that just makes sense for the Disney Plus shows to be talked about at the Disney convention. But speaking of Marvel marketing announcements, new Moon Knight book to be released called Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, having Mark Spector return as the Cape Schizophrenic. And this is my reminder for everyone, go buy comic books. They're fun, and you should just support comic books. And in more comic book movie news, Superman Not Legacy had a bunch of paparazzi photos leaked, and the costume looks amazing. Obviously, like I said, when the image first came out, the suit is very obviously dirty from a battle of some sort, but here it's cleaned up, it's pristine, it looks so nice. Let's also admire Mr. Terrific in one of the most comic accurate suits I've ever seen. Warner Brothers, if you're smart, you'll sell this as merchandise. I will take 20. We also got comic accurate Lois Lane. We got Perry White, Jimmy Olsen. There was an image of Cat Grant. I forgot to save it, sorry. There was also these pictures of Ultraman, allegedly. Now, if you remember earlier in the year, there was a leaked plot that said Ultraman was going to be a villain, and a lot of people were worried we were going to do multiverse stuff way too soon. But this version of Ultraman seems to be working for the government, perhaps as a Superman clone. And if that's true, that would make sense for the theory that this is not Ultraman, but Bizarro. And with all of that being said, James Gunn has clarified that even with all these other actors and characters that have been announced, Superman is still going to be the main character, and Lex Luthor will be the villain. Big shocker. In other superhero movie news, Hugh Jackman will apparently only wear his cowl for about 10 minutes in Deadpool and Wolverine, which I think sucks. I wish that it was longer, but I guess I'll take 10 minutes over nothing. But I just wish it was longer. Also, speaking of the mutants, Michael Leslie, who is the current writer for the Marvel's MCU version of X-Men, has reportedly sent in his roster for the MCU X-Men, where apparently it is going to have the same roster as X-Men 97. Which, I mean, to be honest, I feel like anybody could have predicted that. You know what I mean? But let me know what X-Men you want to see in future movies. And also, speaking of Disney Plus, allegedly Captain Carter and Kaori from the What If television show will be in the next Avengers film. I'm not going to comment on that. Also, Adam McKay said that apparently he tried to direct The Boys as a movie trilogy in the late 2000s, but studios weren't interested in superhero stuff pre-MCU, which is sad but true. And I saw a lot of people talking about how the show, it works better as a show than it does a movie, but I feel like a trilogy of movies would work, simply because The Boys is such a short story, especially in terms of comics. In my opinion, I am glad they didn't do it pre-MCU because The Boys, it would just be too much like the comics, I feel like, had it come out prior to, Iron Man and the entirety of the MCU, and superheroes hadn't been as in the world as they are today. It would have significantly less commentary, wouldn't be as political, wouldn't be as story-driven, and it would mostly be just super gore. But let me know what you think a Boys trilogy would look like back in 2008. And speaking of things that won't happen, the Street Fighter movie has lost its directors, Danny and Michael Filippo, also known as Raka Raka, due to scheduling issues. Apparently, they had been hoping to start the production way sooner, but have since just dropped out because they want to work on other stuff. Especially like other projects, like their sequel to the A24 film, Talk to Me. Also, the Despicable Me characters apparently won't age ever, according to Chris Renner, who says they're taking a Simpsons approach to the whole thing, which I personally hate. I feel like you could tell a lot more stories with the characters if you let this family grow up and see what they can become. But let me know what you guys think. Also, in a small casting update, Eben Moss-Bachrach has come out and said that in order to play the Thing for preparation, he has been looking at rocks. You know what? I think that's actually fantastic. I think he should continue to do that. But also he mentioned that he had downloaded Marvel Unlimited, so he's been reading a lot of comic books, which is actually great. Also, Lance Reddick's final television role will be Kite Man, where he will play Lex Luthor. If you remember, Lance last year passed away due to natural causes, so this will be his last posthumous role. Also, David DeLuise is going to return for Wizards Beyond Waverly Place, the sequel series. And Eric Kripke has also said that he already has a role in mind for Jared Padalecki. So for The Boys Season 5, we might be getting a supernatural team up again. Let me know what you guys think. Also, Netflix, the One Piece adaptation, is going to have more casting updates. They were announced. Now, I haven't watched One Piece, so I cannot give my opinion on this, but we have David Datchmelanch as Mr. 3, Jazara Jaslind as Miss Valentine, Cameron Johnson as Mr. 5, and Daniel Laker as Mr. 9. Let me know in the comments if you think that these are good castings. I have no clue. But here's our final list of announcements. Like I said, we don't have a lot of information on these. These were just things that were announced. So let me know your thoughts and predictions in the comments. First of all, Everybody Hates Chris, the animated series, is moving forward with Chris Rock, Tisha Arnold, and Terry Crews returning for their roles. The Outer Banks Season 4 has finished filming. Ted Season 2, the script is finished and the cast has started to do table reads. The Megan movie is going to get a spin-off called Soulmate, which will be released January 22nd of 2026, in which a man loses his wife and gets attached to a robot. They also fumbled the title, and you can clearly tell that it was a bunch of old people that came up with it, because it should be Soulmate and not Soulmatey. The Watchmen movie is going to be released in 2 parts. Part 1 will be released later this year, and Part 2 in 2025. Both are CG. Inside Out, the spin-off series, is going to come next spring, and it'll be talking about how dreams affect us in our waking lives. The Thunderbolts have wrapped up filming, as well as Brave New World, finally, and that means that the movie has a budget of $325 million. Holy crap. Batman, the Caped Crusader, will be available all 10 episodes on August 1st on Amazon Prime. An upcoming Spider-Man project is in the works at Sony that will allegedly star a live-action Miles Morales. Eddie Murphy confirmed that Shrek 5 had been started and that he has already been recording lines for it, as well as production for a Donkey Solo movie. Lanterns will star Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart as they get drawn back to Earth to solve a mystery, with Ozark showrunner Chris Mundy, Damien Lindelof co-writing, and Tom King. Lanterns will have 8 episodes along with the It spin-off show Welcome to Derry, and they will be on HBO before they move on to Max. So they are now HBO originals and not Max originals, with a bunch of other shows. Also, posters for the Sandy Cheeks Netflix movie were released, and they're very high quality. It's a little creepy. Yorgos Lanthimos has a movie in the works titled Begonia, which will star Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons as it'll follow 2 conspiracy theory men. They are essentially obsessed with conspiracy theories, and they have a theory that there is a CEO that is an alien, and she is taking over the world. She's going to destroy the Earth, rather. This movie will be released on November 7th of 2025. This movie is also based on a Korean film. This is a remake. The Korean film is titled Save the Green Planet by Jang Jong-hwan. Now, that movie is a sci-fi comedy, so I'm assuming this one will also be. It'll be like a funny movie. Also, speaking of funny movies, Spaceballs 2 is in the works, and in terms of sequels, Baby Driver 2 might be getting made. Now, this is a might because a lot of the cast, as for Baby Driver 1, has since been Me Too'd. Pretty much the entire cast of it has since, had these allegations against them, so not looking good. And in our final amount of nerd news, a trailer for Red 1, starring J.K. Simmons, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, and Dwayne Johnson, has released, and it looks fantastic. It genuinely looks fun. It looks like a great Christmas action movie. But it doesn't look too violent. It's not like Silent Night or the one with the guy from Stranger Things. I'm blanking right now. It doesn't look like any of those. It's not like super violent. It looks more like a fun PG-13 sort of action thriller sort of thing. And we actually see Dwayne Johnson get his ass beat, which is the first time that we've seen that in a long time. Now, with that being said, that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching. Make sure you call your loved ones. And now it's back to you, IsBe. Thank you, NerdBe. That is our show for the week. And thank you guys for watching. Share this with a friend, a loved one, a dog. Leave some comments about the situations that we've told you about here today. Click the links in the description and do all the YouTube things. And as always, my name is Dion. but you can call me IsBe, and now you're caught up on last week. See ya.